The moment Harry walked into that courtroom, everything was already on the edge, but what nobody realized was just how brutally it would all collapse in a matter of minutes, exposing cracks that had been quietly widening behind closed doors for years. This wasn't just a legal battle. This was a gamble, a high-stakes, all-or-nothing move that Harry believed would finally strike back at the Daily Mail, and instead, it detonated right in his own hands. Because Meghan Markle is furious, and not quietly, not privately, but in a way that insiders claim has shaken everything behind the scenes after Harry lost his long-running legal battle against Associated Newspapers. The court didn't hesitate. The judge didn't soften the blow. There was simply not enough evidence. Case dismissed, just like that.
Because when Harry's having a difficult time, Meghan doesn't want to be involved.
History teaches us that if you are not of use to the Duchess of Sussex, you're in a very lonely place. And that looks like the place where Harry is right now.
Harry arrived in the United Kingdom carrying something heavier than confidence. He carried expectation. Years of it. The belief that this case would be the turning point, that this would prove something, that this would rewrite the narrative. And when Harry stepped into that courtroom, everything about the posture, the timing, the silence, it all suggested one thing. Harry thought victory was already within reach. But then something shifted, not gradually. Instantly, the ruling came down like a door slamming shut. The court concluded there simply wasn't enough evidence for the case to proceed. And in that moment, everything Harry had built this fight around collapsed.
Every one of Prince Harry's 97 allegations against the Daily Mail has been rejected. Not some of them, half of it, every single one, with the judge finding all 55 articles were lawfully sourced.
And here's where the story stops being about law and starts becoming about consequences. Real consequences. The kind you can't spin, can't reframe, can't escape. Because Harry didn't just lose. Harry walked straight into a financial storm that now threatens to swallow everything. Reports estimate the legal costs at around £50 million. Not a rumor, not speculation. A number so massive, it instantly reframes the entire situation. For Harry, whose income streams have already been questioned, whose deals are reportedly slowing, whose brand is under pressure, this isn't just expensive. This is destabilizing.
The Duke of Sussex in London, as he and 6 other celebrities, including Sir Elton John, lost a legal battle that cost around $100 million against the Daily Mail's publisher. A judge dismissing claims that Associated Newspapers journalists unlawfully obtained stories.
And this is exactly where Meghan Markle enters the picture, and everything becomes even more volatile. Because when Harry realized what this loss could cost, Meghan Markle reportedly didn't react with sympathy or quiet support. Meghan Markle reacted with fury, not about justice, not about press freedom, about survival, about the Montecito mansion, about the lifestyle, about the future that suddenly looks far less secure than it did before that ruling dropped. And insiders claim Meghan Markle wasted no time questioning how Harry allowed this to happen, reinforcing a pattern critics have whispered about for years, that whenever Harry takes control, things unravel. Whether that's fair or not, the tension is no longer subtle.
On Friday, if he wins, but he's lost now. I don't think she wants to be on the arm of a loser. And what does Meghan Markle do when Harry's going through difficult times publicly? She disappears. When you think about how Jimmy Kimmel was tearing into him over Spare, and he's trying to promote, where's Meghan when he's promoting Spare? She disappears. Where was Meghan when he lost his rabbit case, when he sat down and was reaming the royal family to the BBC? Meghan mysteriously disappears. When Harry is going through difficult times, Meghan is MIA. She's nowhere to be found.
Because look at the timing. Look at the pattern. Meghan Markle had already been pushing Harry to generate income, already pressuring movement, already signaling that something wasn't adding up financially. The Netflix pitches not landing, the lifestyle brand struggling, the products not selling the way they were expected to. All of these were warning signs. And now Harry has potentially added a £50 million legal burden into the middle of that already fragile situation. And here's where it gets even more uncomfortable, because this isn't just about money. It's about perception. It's about control. It's about who is steering the ship and whether that control is slipping away. Royal biographer Tom Bower didn't hold back. According to Tom Bower, Meghan Markle was drawn to stability and the spotlight, both, not one without the other. And now, critics are asking a dangerous question: what happens when both start to fade at the same time? Because Harry didn't just lose a case. Harry lost momentum. Harry lost narrative control. Harry lost the ability to frame this as a victory. And instead, the story flipped fast. There were claims Harry believed he could damage the Daily Daily Mail through the courts. But now, the opposite has happened. The damage has landed squarely on Harry's own public image, and the fallout didn't stop there. The timing overshadowed everything, including the Invictus Games, which were supposed to be the reason Harry returned to the United Kingdom in the first place. Instead of headlines celebrating veterans, the focus shifted completely to defeat. And this is where the deeper pattern begins to emerge, because Harry spent years pursuing this case. Years, absolute confidence, refusing to settle when others walked away. That level of certainty doesn't come from nowhere. So what did Harry see that the court didn't? Or more importantly, what did the court see that Harry couldn't prove? Because when the Daily Mail pushed back, when journalists were called to explain their methods, the court accepted those explanations as lawful, detailed, structured, defended, but when Harry presented evidence, it didn't hold. The moment the ruling settled into silence, Harry didn't just lose a case, Harry lost leverage, control, and something far more dangerous in this world, credibility. Because once the court made it clear that the evidence simply wasn't strong enough, the narrative Harry had been building for years suddenly cracked open, and what spilled out wasn't vindication, it was doubt. Harry refused to let that silence define the outcome. Harry pushed back publicly, forcefully, insisting that justice had not been served, that accountability had not been delivered. Harry called the judgment an obvious whitewash, suggesting something deeper, something overlooked, something intentionally ignored. But here's the uncomfortable contradiction: the court didn't argue intention. The court pointed to evidence, or rather, the lack of it. And that's the detail that keeps echoing. Because the more Harry insists something was wrong, the more the spotlight shifts back to one question: why couldn't Harry prove it? Why did the evidence fall short after years of preparation, after months of expectation, after a level of confidence that suggested certainty? And then the financial reality starts tightening around everything. Because even if Harry doesn't end up paying the full £50 million, even if insurance covers part of it, even if legal structures soften the blow the damage is already done, the scale alone changes perception. It reframes every decision, every move, every risk. And Harry is not alone in this fallout. Elton John is tied to this case. Elton John shares part of the burden. And then something happens that makes the timing feel almost too sharp to ignore. The very next day after the loss, Elton John announces a return to concerts in Mexico City. Immediate, direct action, it raises a question that lingers in the background like a shadow. When pressure hits, some people move quickly to recover. So what does Harry do next? Because critics aren't holding back anymore. Critics are openly suggesting that this moment could reshape everything from finances to future deals to long-term positioning. Critics are even floating the idea that Harry may eventually have to reconsider relationships that once seemed permanently closed. And that thought alone changes the stakes. Because if Harry's independence starts to look financially unstable, then every previous decision starts being re-examined through a different lens, not as freedom, but as risk. And the voices reacting to this outcome, they're not subtle. Some are openly saying the humiliation was deserved. Some are pointing directly at the legal system in the United Kingdom, where losing carries consequences that can't be avoided. Unlike other systems, this one demands payment from the one who was wrong. And that creates a kind of pressure Harry hasn't faced at this scale before. But the situation doesn't stop there. It never does. Because while all of this unfolds, another thread keeps tightening security. Harry continues to argue that security concerns limit movement, limit travel, limit options. Harry has said repeatedly that bringing Meghan Markle and the children to Britain safely requires a level of protection that isn't currently in place. And that detail, it complicates everything because critics interpret it differently. Critics see it not just as a safety concern, but as a financial one. A signal, a suggestion that covering those costs independently may not be as simple as it once appeared. And suddenly, everything connects. The lawsuit loss, the financial pressure, the security arguments, the absence of Meghan Markle at a critical moment, the reports of frustration, the whispers of tension. None of these details sit alone anymore. They form a pattern that points towards something shifting quietly but unmistakably. Because Harry walked out of that courtroom without a victory, without visible support beside Harry, and potentially without a clear path forward. And that's where the story stops feeling like a headline and starts feeling like a turning point. Because the question now isn't just about the past decision. It's about the next one. At what moment does pressure become too much? At what moment does frustration turn into distance? At what moment does Meghan Markle decide that this situation is no longer sustainable?